Is your run?
There he is. We were thinking we weren't gonna make it, but after a while.
We're good to go now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your attendance and your time. We'll start this regular meeting of the Big Plains Water and Sewer Special Service District. If you'd all stand, we'll pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, starting with left.
Ross Gregerson, President.
Harold Merritt, present.
Dale Vettel, President.
Gary Jorgensen, President.
Okay.
Marty with us one.
I'd like to acknowledge our water superintendent, Dale Harris, who is here, and excuse Rod Mills, who is out of town. Okay, we'll go on to the first item number 1, in the financial report. That is the broad risk assessment. And I had some questions on it, and I had chatted with Taylor about it briefly, but I think we need to discuss this a little bit more in between now and the next regular meeting. The reason being is that the assessment of the computer system is, I don't know how it got to where it's at. I do not have a password to the computer system. Is there any board member that has a password to the computers? You do?
I don't know.
The service district has no access to the computers. So I don't know what the risk assessment is. I don't know who the IT guy is. I know who provides the service, Polaris, but Polaris, rather. So anyway, the questions that were asked on here were filled out, I think, with the knowledge of the person who does the computing. But I need to sit down with them and discuss this risk assessment so I understand it. So I would move that we table the risk assessment to our next regular meeting.
A second.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Next item is the April check register. I just don't know where to start with this one either. It came to our attention that we have $13,000 floating around somewhere, in the form of a check that we can't nail down, and Dale can help us on this a little bit later.
That deal. That deal.
Yes, that Dale. Yeah, you're not, you'll be here. Yeah. We'll blame him. And then it's not his fault, it's that, maybe you explain it to us, Dale.
Taylor and I were working together. There's a customer that trying to figure out if they've actually paid their impact fee or not. And what we found in the registry is that they paid, but then their check was canceled, and we don't know why their check, not canceled, Taylor.
It was void.
Voided. That it was voided. Maybe it could be a call to Michelle, but the owners claim that their check was actually cashed. The amount that they were charged isn't the right amount for the connection that they have. But right now, I have asked these customers to actually get her bank records up and find out exactly what they have actually paid to the SSD, so I can be able to get it straightened out, and most importantly, that they're charged the appropriate impact fee. Because it doesn't represent, even in the voided check, it doesn't represent what their impact fee should have actually been for the connection size that they have.
Okay, so with that in mind,
Can I comment to that?
yes,
I just find it strange and discouraging that the district and the town is having to rely on the resident to do banking. It doesn't make a whole lot of common sense to me. That worries me.
well, the worries began as the service district that about 2.5 years ago, had their own accountant, had their own computer system, and out of the blue, the computer was confiscated, our secretary was fired, and we have not had access to our books since. We've been running blind. I keep books on a yellow tab at home, and whatever I can gather up here and there. And so I asked for printouts, especially when John was here, and I'd get check printouts that hadn't been reconciled for 3 or 4 months.
I don't know about past mayors, but who the current mayor is, I bring that sucker up.
Well, I'm bringing this up so that we can resolve this.
Okay?
And so I justify the reason that we need to resolve it, and that there's a little history here that we need to deal with. There's a black hole of Calcutta out there. The money hasn't disappeared, but it floats from the service district to the town, and we have lacked an interlocal agreement, and that is an absolute necessity. And so with that not being in place, we're not sure where the funds are landing.
Which, by the way, the town has received that from Harold last week, so it was last week, I got that review, so we're reviewing that now.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of related. I was researching the fact because they wanted me to do this financial certification for big claims, and so I called Polaris and talked to Kevin, and he referred me to Kyle up there and got some history. He said initially each entity, the town, there was a single database set up with separate funds. Is the way, is it Polaris or what?
Polaris.
I think I'm thinking of four-wheeler. Okay, so it was set up as a single database, but with separate funds. And then it went to 2 databases. Okay, and then it went to separate databases with the town only doing the entries. And this was in September of 2018 when the town took over our book. So ever since then, we have not been able to access it, or know what's going on. It's just what the town tells us. And that was my concern. I actually talked to the mayor about this, about signing that financial certification, because all I have is the numbers I'm given by the town. I can't certify that. And I don't know if that's appropriate in this meeting, but I think that's what we're talking about here if something's going on with our money, but we don't know what's going on. So that's gotta be cleared up. And I don't know if that be taken up at this meeting, but that's an issue that needs to be handled.
Well, I think all I need to do in this meeting is point out the fact that nobody's making any accusations that the money is going somewhere other than the town or the service district. I don't think there are any nefarious things going on other than the fact that we've been blocked from our books. We have spotty access and so we need to tighten that up. And I pointed the check out of $13,000 that we really haven't got our hands on for a good enough example for, at this point, to move that we
Harold,
take.
sorry, can I, since we're on the subject, can I just say something? It was
Sure.
something I was gonna give in my report. Another thing that I'd like to point out is that I came in the other day and Tish was in here and asked me how we got to 25,000 in delinquent receivables, correct?
Something like that, yeah.
And how we got in that spot. And I didn't have an answer for her, except for, just like you're saying, is that we don't have any control over this. So we've got $25,000 that have been left to slip out there, that nobody said anything to the SSD. I was in contact with the accountant, of course, at the time. We would talk about it from time to time. Do I got any shut-offs? I would be told there was a few people. He made some phone calls and everything was good. And then I come in the other day and get find out that we've got $25,000 that's out there. That some of them have actually left town and haven't even paid us. So one of the things I was going to say with my spiel is that I was going to recommend to the board that we need to have ourselves in here somewhere to protect the SSD and make sure that, you know, our funds are being gathered, that stuff is being paid. I just feel like we got to have some oversight in there. I don't know how we got to $25,000 without us knowing.
That's certainly another point, and I understand that you and Taylor were gonna get together and try to reconcile.
Taylor and I will work that out, but I just wanted you folks to be aware of it. Taylor and I have already got a game plan. We'll send the bills out. We'll get that list together of who is, and then we're gonna put out door hangers and we're gonna go after our receivables.
And that's another example where the SSD needs access to, we don't need to manipulate the funds or move funds around necessarily, but we have to be able to know who's paid their bill, who hasn't paid their bill, what's going on with the money. We have to have the information. Then if we have an issue, we can go somewhere else where somebody can actually move the money where it needs to go. At any rate, we need to do something with that. With all those issues floating around out there, I move that we table the April check register until the next regular meeting, and we find our check and do some resolutions. The 25,000 you're talking about doesn't have anything to do with this check register.
No, it's just,
But the
Taylor can probably
$13,000.
speak a little bit more. If there's any more information you guys know, she can probably speak more. It's just 25 grand in receivables, correct?
I don't remember the number off the top of my head, I have to check, but we've been sending out notices, letting them know that we're shutting off their water in the next 30 days if they don't make an effort to bring their account to compliance. And so we just barely sent those letters out yesterday. So we're trying to get some of that back.
Yeah, that's more an operational end of this thing. I'm just talking about
Right.
checks.
Yeah.
We gotta
Taylor and I got it.
tighten up this checking account before we can approve it. So I move that we table the April check register. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Nope.
Aye. No.
Okay, 3-1, table the check register until we locate, or resolve what's going on with that check. Okay, we'll go on to item 3, which is a standard financial report, financial statement. Have some issues with that too. And I don't want this to fall back on Taylor or this has been a while coming because she said a load dropped on her that, people have, moved on and she's picked up and she's done a great job for Dale. We're not throwing rocks here. She's the rock star as far as keeping things up. So there's no problems there, but the reconciling of the checking account is one issue. It shows the date on here, the fourth, on the fourth, instead of 139,000, we had 21,000 in the bank. The PTFI account, for reserves, it had an additional $85,000 in it. And then what's shown on this reconciliation, I don't think there's any issues other than reconciling these records. They're just not up to date. That's my opinion.
I probably want to shed some light on that. The town, who under the current structure is ultimately responsible for the accounting, has gone outside the town district to hire an independent accountant to do a forensic accounting and bring everything up to speed. As we know, Mr. Barlow was away on military duties for the last 60 days, so it's a little hard to get some information, but we're probably halfway through, and 3/4 way through that reconciliation, so that we're hoping that's going to be done by the middle next week.
Okay, so
So at that point, then the town can give you an accurate report of where the county is.
yeah, I don't think we've got a leak in the pipe here. I just think that we've got a swirl going on and we're trying to tighten it up and find out where it's at. So with just a few things, I know on that, I think it would be well for us to, I would move that we table the financial statement until the next regular meeting on the 3rd of June. Anyone second that?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Mayor, who's the forensic, who's the accountant that we're doing using, or can you?
I won't share that publicly.
Oh.
Yeah, well, no, it's right.
You're dealing with us.
Okay, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda.
We need transparency.
Yeah, we'll move on to, Dale Harris, Water Superintendent. We'll get into the actual nuts and bolts of getting some water somewhere.
I don't know anything. I start off with Canaan, our two board members, Ross and Harold, they had a 50,000 gallon tank. Of course, the board is aware of it since we got an audience here tonight that needs to be rehabilitated, for us to meet our storage requirements for fire up in Canaan. These two gentlemen, got our tank sandblasted for us and painted. It's curing right now, so that I can be able to gasket it up and put some water in it. So I'd like to let the board know that that tank is finished. We just gotta let the curing, finish, and then I'll actually fill that. It'll sit for 5 days. I'll take a VOC on that to make sure that we don't have anything leaching into the water and the bacteriological, and then we'll send that into the system. But just wanted to publicly thank Ross and Harold. These guys did a great job on that. That's a little good work. We did a good job, especially to see this cone on this thing. Not even a bird can stand on it. These two guys are up there. Yes, exactly. But, flows of Canaan haven't changed, just letting you guys know. I was talking to Harold this morning and, thought that I was having some problems, but it was a thing that we thought that Wednesday just opened up some water into their property, and that's where my water was, going, to this morning. Cedar Point, compared to last year, I'm already pumping more water now than I was at this time last year, just to let you folks know. I've got both of the pumps running and I'm running 8 gallons a minute. My tank is holding a level between 950 and 960 right now. in that 1,000,000-gallon tank. So that's where we're at the beginning of May over in Cedar Point. Well 59, well 59 is taking longer and longer to clean up. Because Ross and Harold know they were there when we built this. We got our water pretty quick and got it cleared up pretty quick. I'm kind of back to the same thing that I was with the Jessup well before it finally tanked on us. And that is that I run it, and after I've, ran it for 10, 15 minutes to waste, and I'm not getting anything cleared up, I come back either later on that day or the following morning, and I run it again, and then usually I can get clear water to happen in a reasonable time, within a half hour. It's taking me a little bit longer to get that clear water, which segues me into my other thing, is that next week I will be doing a bunch of flushing again over in Cedar Point before I get all the way into the summer, so I can get some of this iron algae out of this system, because I'm just not going to be able to do that in the summertime. So I need to get that system cleaned out as good as I can before we go into this, because I'm just not going to be able to dump 100,000 gallons, down the wash to clean the system over there because of the iron algae. The Cook well's holding strong. Cook well is actually just a great well. It comes up clean. The thing is clean within 2 seconds. It doesn't smell. I was actually bummed out that I had to fire up well 59 because it puts that iron algae into the system over there. And I'm just not getting it. Where Cook well was a problem for us in the beginning with that iron algae, it's as clear as a bell. Since we stuck that new pump and motor and everything, and of course, I want to elaborate on that, is that we put in that automatic readout for that drawdown. And I think that's the key in this Cook well. Whereas before, you flip it on and pump it. And now what I'm able to do, and I'm able to do that in 59 and with the Cook well, is that we set that at that pumping level that actually drowns that good water. And I think that that's where we're at with the Cook well, is we did right out of the chute. We got that lucky spot. With the 59, we've had to go back a few times to make those adjustments. But we're getting nice clear water out of Cook. Still only producing our 80 gallons a minute over Cedar Point is our total flow. I'm going to pressure up my tank and get my drawdowns. I haven't done a drawdown on these ones over here for a while. I'm going to get a current number before the next meeting, so I can let you folks know where we're at on our static on these 2 wells over here, just so we're going into summer. And then we've got something recent that's a starting number for us. So as we go through this summer, we can actually be monitoring that, because you guys know we lost 20 feet of static head literally over 3 days in well 59 that we've never gotten back. We still sit at 53 feet, whereas we started out just under 74 feet. That hasn't come back. So I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. Had a couple of mainline extensions since the last time that we met. So I've approved and passed off, and drinkable water is in Jeff and Andy Spenlove's line that they extended. They had to go up for fire flow, and we set their 2 meters, one for them and one for their pops. Pearson's water line is approved. I installed their meter yesterday. For ours, I've approved the structure, but I have not signed off of it. It still needs to be pressure test. I still need to do chlorine and get a good back tee out of that. And then there's some minor stuff on cans, needs some concrete board and whatnot. But those guys are coming along good with that. I left my notes home.
What do you think?
I think that's it.
Been asked several times about Cedar Point, and people being concerned about the build out. We talk about water and how we're being pressed with the water, yet houses keep popping up. Maybe you could expand on it, but the basic issue is that when we purchased the Canyon Springs, part of that was that there were so many Cedar Point, when we purchased Cedar Point, so many of those building lots were grandfathered in for water.
Correct.
So as people purchased those lots, that was part of the purchase agreement of 10 years ago. And so we're just about to the point where those lots are filled up. Could you expand on that? Just stop the tops.
Well, I see this a little bit different than what I've got going on, and it comes back to what we're calling our standby fee. And Rod and I have talked about this several times, is that our explanation that we give to folks when they're paying their standby fee is we're telling them that that water is now standing by for them. So, let me answer what you asked me. Yes, you're right. We have about 18 houses. Some of them are being built right now. David Eads just sent me 5 more. Did he come in and pay yet, Taylor? It was for 5?
Yeah.
4 or 5 lots. 4 or 5 lots and then he says that they're actually gonna sell the other 3 lots. Those are the last ones that I know of with the Jerry agreement. And that's that total I gave you close. It was gonna be 18. There was the 18 homes that we had already given will serve letters or that they were wrapped up in with the agreement that we bought the system from Jerry. With that said, I've had a couple of people challenge me on, and one of them, Rod and I talked about, is that gentleman asked me if he could, and he didn't have a will serve letter from us, and he wasn't part of the Jerry deal. So he's just a normal Joe. I've been paying the standby fee. As you know, we said we're not going to issue any more will serve letters over there unless you fit into these programs until we get this handled over there. So he says he's not part of any of this. He says to me, well, I'll see you in court. I said, how's that? He says, I'm paying $49 a month for a standby fee. There's supposed to be water standing by for me. And now you're telling me that there's no water standing by for me. So I would like my standby fees back, or you guys give me a connection, because you're not giving me water. And that's what that standby fee language says, is that we've got water standing by for them. So when I talked with Rod and said, how do you see this? Because I actually seen it the way that the property owner seen it. I didn't tell him that, but I seen it the way that the property owner seen it. Is that we have told these folks that they are paying a standby fee, and that standby fee is for the water, for them to come to them. So over in Cedar Point or anywhere else in our system, because this is our policy, we are using the verbiage of a standby fee, which if you watch any of these meetings, Harold will attest to this, I've always had problems with that verbiage because it's giving people that entitlement of ownership. And when we have these things in our system where we're not be able to produce water, I'm just giving you my opinion. Levi was right. We told him that we had water standing by for him. Now we don't have water standing by for him, and he's been giving us a standby fee. So when I say that we're not going to build any more houses, I actually look to you guys and I say we need to change that verbiage on our standby fee. We need to make it called a minimum usage fee, because right there in our own policy, we're giving people the right to challenge us when we're having water problems. That's the way that I see it. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm just telling you that's the way that I see it.
And we had a discussion with the engineer a month ago or so, or even further back than that, about this and about some other issues. And the will serve letters.
Right.
I don't know what exactly was resolved. We were all gonna think this over and come to a meeting of the minds on it. As far as Levi is concerned, we're gonna have to figure that one out.
We gave him his connection. I don't know if you remember, you and I and Rod actually talked about this. And
That's
we were
part
right
of the conversation.
that he's been paying his standby fee. And we've told folks that you pay your standby fee.
So how many more of those?
Everybody that's in our system that pays a standby fee. Because we're calling it, the way that I see the problem is just the verbiage of it.
Yeah. We've started putting expiration dates and other things on standby letters too.
Right.
And so there's some more technical parts of it that are involved. But how many more of those do we have in Cedar Point that we don't have houses on that have been paying the fee? We have 14.
So yeah, we have more than 14. There's probably 25 to 30 of those.
Above and beyond the 18 is part of the.
Exactly. Anybody who's paying that standby fee, that's just the point that I'm trying to make. It's really not just directed at Cedar Point. It's that word, standby fee, and that we have actually preached that to folks, is that that's your water standby.
Are those letters that we have given, or were they part of the original Cedar Point purchase?
I think 18 of them were original.
18 were the 18 that we talked about were stuff that got in through the door that we had actually given will serve letters. There is 23 of the Jerry deals. But 14 of those have been built out. So he's got 7 of them left, and he just came in and paid 4 or 5 meters, and he said he's selling the other 3. The other 3 lots, but they're gonna be under that, they're still lots that were owned by Jerry, and they're still gonna be part of that program.
Well, beyond that, you still have 30 plus that are being paid that like this.
Yes. But I want to point out that that goes across all 3 of our systems. That if we were having that problem over here on the Apple Valley side, we're still dealing with that language inside of our policy.
There's a lot of vacant lots in here. They're all included in that. Well, there's apples and oranges on that deal because we don't have the water issues here we have out on the other end of town.
So, Dale, where does it leave you? I'm gonna go back where you said in the very first part of your statement. I think you said you're pumping capacity right now in your 2 wells and you're maintaining 900,000 gallons, but you don't have any surplus, do you?
No. I'm bobbing between, I'm not gaining on my tank. This time last year, I was still able to overflow my tank. I'm not able to overflow my tank now.
And you probably know the number, but just a roundabout number, how much increase in water usage are we this year over last year? The homeowner actually overusing, and I'm saying using the word overusing because of what we use.
I would say we're up by probably 8%, 7-8%, because I'm still keeping my level in there. I'm not running away from it, so I feel like that I'm plodding. I'm plodding in there. So I would be comfortable with that.
So it's really not even about meeting future growth, just our current residents. We probably need to trim back 10%.
I agree.
Just in order to maintain, because right now, as you said, indications of pumping the second well are indications that the table is depleted over was last year. So that means that we're also going to run out of water quicker this year with this continued usage. So it makes the control of by the homeowners to reduce the usage of water back down below what we were last year and be more conservative than what we are currently.
I agree. I agree. And I've actually had a couple of citizens call me from over there. And in fact, I met with one of them today. They wanted to know where their water was at and if I was concerned about their water use. And like I've always said to folks, call my phone. If you've got water problems over in Cedar Point, you got a leak and you're using more water than you think you should be using, it's my forte to figure this stuff out for you folks. Don't hesitate to call me. I'll come and figure it out and I'll reduce your water usage. I feel like a lot of this usage that happens throughout all of these systems, that the bulk of it is wasted water. People are maintaining their watering systems. They're leaving a hose running. They're just neglectful of what they're doing. And this is what's running it up. I've got some sticklers that go out through their yard and they'll call me. I've used this and I've got this many gallon per minute heads and I know that I've used this much water. I love dealing with those type of people. Then there's some folks that say, I have no idea what's going on, man. I'm using this water. And of course, and I'm not complaining about it. Of course, it's got to be our fault that we've done something wrong. And I'm batting 100% on that one. I always find the leak on people's property.
What about Canyon Springs usage over last year?
Our Canaan, I didn't have anything from I didn't have any data from the year before, so I didn't have anything to compare, but we were 4,300,000 and something gallons is what we used for the year. But I want to, emphasize that there's 62 million of those things flow. So I mean,
but Canyon Springs used 4 million.
Canaan, yes.
And then how much over Cedar Point?
22 million. Just over 22
So
million.
26 million gallons, but the Canyon Springs pipeline that comes over to the million gallon tank will generate an additional 62 million gallons, correct?
Yes, because that runs around the clock. So that's not something that we shut off. Then, the whole plan is that if we could be able to get that over there, we're now saving our water in that aquifer. Same thing with finally getting that water all the way this way. Is the whole plan is to keep our wells from running, to save our wells for when we need it in the summers, or to be able to deal with the growth and leave that aquifer alone. Get the Canaan water moving this way, get it here feeding all 3 of those, and then bump our wells. Because our aquifers, unless we're just gonna just keep letting people poke holes in our aquifer up here, that water in theory should be sitting waiting for our rainy day. Because we're running out of Canaan.
I think we've got two measures we're working on there. We are working to reduce, or even, I'm gonna use the word eliminate, and that may not be the right word, but we're working to reduce or eliminate new holes in the ground, new wells. And then the town is also working on a sewer program, which would eventually give us recharge to the zone. So, we are working on a long-term solution for that to make that go away. But you're absolutely right. If we could use the Canaan Spring water and leave the wells alone, there should be enough capacity, over 62 million gallons, to service that, and even some of the new growth without cutting those fields.
If you folks remember the last meeting that I gave you that number on, and because I gave you folks all of my data numbers from that previous year, literally within a couple of thousand gallons, Canaan would take care of what we have in present day right now, would take care of our needs. If we didn't build another house and somebody did, throw a sprinkler on and run it for 7 weeks or anything like that, that's how important Canaan is at 110 gallons a minute. And just so, if there's people in here that aren't following my numbers, because I can see someone going, well, how can you do 80 gallons a minute over in Cedar Point and tell me that 110 gallons a minute is going to suffice everything? Let's remember that we're pumping water over in Canaan and we're flowing it around the block over in Canaan, and it's not pump water. It doesn't cost us anything to get that out of the ground, just the maintenance on the system.
Hey, a question, we're working on the Canaan Springs pipeline to the million-gallon tank. And that it's on course, on budget, and feel good about it being a successful project. It has been up to this point, with all the work we've done, but we still have a hot summer in front of us, and we're not gonna beat this summer with that pipeline. So what's your thoughts on reducing flows in Cedar Point? Do you think we've sent out a letter? I received a few phone calls from folks, but nothing is, from the meter reading you did the other day, nothing's changed.
No. And so my suggestion would be is first that we need to come up with a comprehensive plan, of course, what we want to do. And that I don't want to do it, but it's for the betterment of everybody. We're going to have to start putting on fines for people that are, this is the thing, you guys, is this is so hairy because you have such different size lots over there. The gentleman that I was dealing with today, he had used 34,000 gallons the previous month. And he was concerned about that. Dale, am I overusing my water? Well, compared to Cedar Point water, no. Because about my average user over there is really between 30 and 40,000 gallons because folks let their water go. So I think what we need to do is we need to come up, like Dale said, we need to go with that 10%. And that's where we need to come from for actually individually is we need to get folks to cut that by 10%. My opinion, we need to send out another letter that says that so that we give actual direction of what we're actually expecting from them. I read the meters in 30 days, and if anything isn't changing, I think that's when we need to have a talk about what we're going to do to start fining people for overuse. But we need to define what this overuse is, because we do have big lots. Cedar Point's a big using system. I have one user over there that has had months of over 500,000 gallons in a month.
This is a situation, we put a rock in a hard spot. You don't want to be a dictator saying, you can only use so much or else, but on the other hand, we're all going down together here if we don't do something.
But I would like to throw out the idea that I suggested here a few years ago is that when we have folks get a connection from us, they bring either an acre foot of water or they pay us to go find that acre foot of water, which is your 325,850 gallons for the year. That's what those folks are supposed to be allotted. And that's actually what we budgeted in to our bank and everything. For that starting number is where I feel like that if we're going to start limiting on what people are wandering, I think that's where we need to start with, is because there's a lot of folks in all of these systems, these two systems, not Cedar, not Canaan, that they have paid for an acre foot of water, and we have in our bank, we have put that acre foot of water in our bank for them. But some of these folks are 3, 4, 5 times exceeding that acre foot of water of what we allocated for them to use on their lot. This is something that I wanted to do for a long time, that I feel that there, and I think this is where we're having this conversation. We've come to that point that we need to really start holding folks to what they've actually purchased from us.
And then,
Well, that's not gonna,
I'm sorry. Age before you.
okay,
You're opening a can for me, you're gonna get me to talk all night.
well, yeah, they charge extra after 6, so.
I think, I want to go back to what Harold said, sorry, boss, I got kicked by Harold, so I'm not gonna do that. I don't like the word fine, I don't like the word,
Neither do I.
it's a difficult word. I think we could probably come close to find some type of a sliding scale type program where your increase of usage of water, that where you start increasing, then so does your rate per gallon of water. Rather than be, you know, authority, I can't say the word right,
Authoritarian.
authoritarian over that, you know, letters don't really bring a lot of attention to the homeowner. But if the homeowner starts using water on this his or her own basis, it starts having to increase pay for that. So if we're paying $1.20 per thousand now, and you go up 10%, then your water bill goes up 15% for that usage. If you go up 20%, it goes up 30%. If you put a sliding scale in place, you know, we're not being, you know, rigid and rough and dictated to our residents.
I agree with that.
They still pay a penalty, and their water bill starts going up astronomically, then I think they're going to start governing themselves. And while we want to govern the water, we don't want to govern people.
I agree with you, and that's why I was just throwing out some ideas, but to that, I wanna make a point to that. Is that the gentleman that I've got a few of them, but the one I'm making the point of is that we will repeatedly use over 500,000 gallons. I've personally talked to him before. He's actually been talked to by Ben in here, and he's coming to write his check, because he writes a ridiculously large check to the SSD.
He doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
Well,
Well, if you're paying $3 a thousand or 300% increase,
It might get his attention.
it might not get his attention, but it would certainly start reporting us ability to go down the water service. So,
That was the same thing I was thinking, the price could affect reduction. I agree, I don't think the letters will do anything.
Right.
My other question is, when you say that people bring a share of water, I think we got more, I think we've got more tickets to the concert than we got seats. And so if they bring shares of water, that's not gonna help us. We're only gonna pump so much out of the ground unless we try to go develop some other wells like that. And so I don't know that affects us.
And that's why I feel like holding them to what they've actually purchased, I think is a very moral and ethical thing. You purchase an acre foot of water annually that we put in our bank. And just like you said, if we're not holding people to that gallonage, we're selling more tickets than we have seats, because now we're I'm gonna say this figuratively, we're running out of water, but we can't give this guy the acre foot of water because the guy that got an acre foot of water down the road is using 5 acre feet, but he only brought the 1 acre foot of water to the game. And I agree with you. And I'm not saying, hey, so you've used this much, bring me another acre foot. I'm saying you have this many gallons that you get to use during the year. You better budget that out.
well, I think that to bring this to a close on this part of it is that, and let the board share some thoughts on it. I'll put a letter together, but the letter won't consist of the amount of gallonage to any great degree that's being used. The letter will state the fact that we have a long, dry summer. We're in the worst drought in the history of this part of the country, and we're still using water like there was no issue. And so starting which part of this?
No, sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to.
Yeah. The letter would indicate that starting, I'll pick a date, 1st of June or something in that ballpark, the 15th of June. Well, said 1st of July. Anyway, we'll come up with a date that the water rates will go up some. I don't think 10% is gonna get it. I think that, an acre foot of water is ample and then some for use, so I think that we ought to hit it pretty good to get started off because the summer's here.
Right, and I agree,
20%.
sooner the better, and I agree with what Dale said, and what you're saying, is that rate change is what's actually gonna probably get people's attention, at least start getting us headed in the right direction.
Can I ask what the guy at the 500,000 gallons was for?
I have no idea.
Budget?
I've actually said to him, are you pumping this into the ground?
But I mean, he has no swimming pool, he has
No,
not extensive
this is Mary
landscaping.
Reed's sole property, if that tells you where that's happening, I'm just not gonna say the guy's name, but that,
That's fine.
do that. It's Mary Reed's sole property, you know where
Yeah,
Mary
I
Reed
do.
is.
So,
Okay, with the board,
So in your letter, then you're gonna ask them for voluntary compliance?
no,
And if not, we'll do it, you're just gonna do it.
I'm gonna say that we got a drought and to participate, any savings, well, I might do that, something that, anybody that would, or we should cut back, the amount of water we're using as much as we possibly can. But, the problem is gonna be coming up, at what point do we start charging the 20%?
I think sooner the better, I think this letter.
No, I mean, not timetable, after they use 3,000 gallons, or if they use 5,000, where do we start saying, okay,
I think what you're saying, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is one of you's basing on the annual usage, and the other one you're basing on monthly usage. So I don't think you can say a full acre usage throughout the entire year, because I could save water in winter.
No, I'm basing it off of the monthly use, no, I'm in the pocket.
Yeah, so I think it's compared to the reason tied to a monthly, not the annual usage.
No, and I agree with
So
that.
budget it out what they should be using. Maybe.
Right,
so say 5,000 gallons, then the
That's
price
our-
starts going up?
yes, because that's our first actual increase in our rates, and I think that's where we should hit it, and then that next step up should be substantially more, up to that 10,000, and then our rates is 15,000, if I remember right, it's 15,000 above is $2.50 per thousand. That needs to be, that just needs to be changed, and then when folks are getting into that, I'm not, into that too much use, that, like Dale said, they're gonna have to pay for that. I want to clarify, when I'm coming from with the acre footage, is that if we have to get to that point, we need to start enforcing that this is how much water you've already bought, if we have to get to that point. That's why I brought up the acre foot of water. And plus, I just feel like it's good management with our bank and with what's going on with our aquifers, that's what they pay for, us they should use.
Are these summertime rates?
Yes, yeah,
Increase
as
in
soon as-
summertime rates?
As soon as you see some snow out there, we'll go back to the old rate.
Still not enough.
We don't have a water issue in winter, right? So with the,
When no one comes back, then we come back. Still's not enough.
Yeah, and probably when the Canaan pipeline is completed, we could go back to that, but nonetheless, I think we ought to be careful with our water. So this is a process. I'll write the letter, the board members will take a look at it, and the water superintendent. And, when we're all in agreement, it'll go to print and go out and, try to hold people.
I just urge you, and I apologize for repeating and being redundant, but I urge you to recognize that we are water managers and not people managers. Just be kind, I guess. Be kind.
So, you want to elaborate?
No, I'm just saying that I really haven't elaborated, it's more of a sense of anything else. We, putting restrictions on somebody, on the way somebody lives, what's next? What's the next shortage? Water is a shortage, I understand that, I'm a water saver myself, but my point is that when you start using language that starts dictating to people how they live, it just gets in a slippery slope. And I just want to urge you to remember that it's not a water issue. It's not just a water issue. It's also a people and their lifestyle issue. And, we can penalize them for overusage by, through a monetary means, but to turn the word into a fine or a penalty, or I'm gonna come down with you type thing, gets a little slippery for me. I'm just urging you to be kind, that's all.
Yeah.
Recognize that, that's all I'm saying.
Before we print very many copies, I'll pass them around, we'll make sure we look at it. So he won't go out before everybody gets it. Any more comments on that deal before?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Margie, let me finish up the agenda and then
Can I,
hang on to it.
are you finished, Dale?
Yeah.
Okay, I just like to make a comment, because these things, did somebody tonight either free food or something here tonight, all these people? Anyway,
We're here to support the SSD.
okay, thank you. Well, anyway, I just thought, let's put some numbers out on this tank, which, okay, so when Rod, in our January 7th meeting, Rod Mills was talking about doing an 80,000 gallon tank that cost $75,000 to refurbish. So when you extrapolate that to our 50,000 gallon tank, it would have been $47,000 to refurbish that tank, okay? And so in this go around on this tank, by getting it in-house, the paint and some supplies, and we had some additional labor, because Harold and I are too old to be up in the middle of that scaffolding, okay? So anyway, we spent $3,300 for paint and labor. Okay, and then the sandblasting was above that. We had a quote on the painter was 8,000, right? Just the labor, right? So now we get it for 3,300, and then the sandblasting was like so for less than $7,500, that tank is compliant. So that's, that's.
Good job, good job.
That's all I had, Carol. That's one.
Thank you.
Where's mine?
Dale, did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, I'm good, unless you guys have got any questions.
Yeah, we're moving on here. Rod would be next, but he's absent and excused. Number 4, I'd like to acknowledge Martin Lisenby and his service and contribution to the service district. His position is now being filled by Dale Bettle. I just want to make that clear that Marty has moved off of the service district and forward, and Mr. Bettle is filling that position. Okay, now we have a topic that Mr.
Wait a minute, we need to have an appreciation for Mel Harris, Ross, and Harold for all their hard work for the last 8 years. They've been in the life since day one. That's
We're steady, we're slow, but we're steady, right? And Ross has, item number 4. Or 5. Think that?
Yeah, Dale Harris is running the water system, which really is 3 different water systems. And over the years of my career, when I was on the electric motor shop and helped a lot of different districts and people in that, they didn't know 10% of what you know. And I think the appreciation here goes to you for keeping a handle on these 3 systems. And I know that you went for 2 or 3 years, you took a voluntary pay cut, and we just restored that first of the year. But I think that you need to have an increase in wages, and I'm proposing a $1.50 increase, Mr. Chairman.
the week.
I just think, it's good to pat you on the back, but I know you're worth a lot more money than you're being paid. But I would just like to propose that, for the efforts that you do and the detail you take take care of it and all these tests. And, I mean, we've not had a bad water test, right, since I got here, since you got here. And before that, we were always in violation. You know, I think a lot of people think you just drive around the truck and smile, but they don't have a clue. And
They can't see
so
my teeth through my
I
head.
think personally that we need to show our appreciation to you for the little something you think.
You make that motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we increase Dale $1.50 an hour wage increase.
I second that. Vote.
Is that the $50,000 raise?
I hope.
45,000 now it'll be 50,000? No,
No.
on next year's proposal,
Okay, no, no.
Yeah, it's on there, yes.
yes. There, yeah, first rate,
That shows the,
copy.
okay, let us vote on it, and, okay. You made the motion, I seconded it, this will go to the town council in the final approval, but.
Before we vote, I'm not sure how the standard, annual increase, I don't think it covers it. I think you're gonna do it, I think you should just add it more. We should, I think it's 5% right now. That'd be $2, that's all we have.
You know, I can't do that.
To meet your standard annual increase, I don't think all of it does it, so if you're gonna do it the right way.
Okay.
Okay,
You know.
And a case of beer wine.
I just-
I remake the motion that we increase our water superintendent's wages at $2 an hour.
yeah, I second that.
Effectively, immediately.
Immediately, as in the first of, where we at, yeah, June. May. You didn't smile.
We're in May.
Okay,
Okay, you can sit this meter.
I second that.
Okay.
Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Discussion of tentative budget, I have a budget that, it's for brief discussion, if anybody has anything obvious on it, but it's mostly it's online, and it's for the board members to take home and to mark up and mark down and to make suggestions on, and then, we will have the, work meeting for the tentative budget, and adopting the tentative budget on the 20th.
Can we be flexible in the 20th, for some scheduling dates?
We can stretch it 21, 22, that direction, that way.
We come backwards 18, 19 too.
At
Yeah,
least 14 days.
yeah, we need 14 days to post a public notice for it. And so the latest you could do it would be, or the earliest you could do it would be, the earliest you could do it would be the 19th.
The latest we
The
can,
19th.
the latest we can do is the 20.
The latest you can do it is, the end of May, so the last day of May. to adopt.
Can we just keep the date flexible until we're, and I know it says tentative
And then
budget,
the end of June for the initial.
I know it says tentative budget, can say tentative dates, not the partial schedules.
Yeah, yeah.
I know these two of us are traveling that week.
Okay, just so it's after the 20th of May.
Okay.
And the 1st of June.
Okay.
In between there. All right, we'll leave that date open, but that'll be when we'll have the,
Can you talk to us about line item 5510 though?
yeah. So anyway, to clarify that, that's open. The next meeting, whenever the date is selected, will be for a public hearing and to adopt the tentative budget. So that'll be what I'm meeting's about. Okay. Now, what you got?
Question on line item 5510. Next page.
Yeah, on the grant as well as the bond proceedings. There's a blank there. And for the full disclosure and, transparency, I put this budget together, so there's gonna be some adjustments made between now and the next meeting.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess again on this, how do you do a budget if you can't look at the books?
Well, wait a minute, that's not true. You can look at the books. You come here and look at the books any day you want.
Here, we can't.
Anybody on this board, well, you can, treasurer can. You have full access to the floors, you just don't have full access to the floors outside the office.
Well, then where do you go?
Oh, I agree.
Anyway, we'll get this thing adjusted. For example, the grant proceeds coming in the fiscal year 22 will be around 940,000. Yeah, 940,000. And that will be for the Canaan pipeline. We've spent somewhere in the ballpark of 50 to 60, or 500 to 600,000 dollars this fiscal year, and that isn't showing on this budget. So that'll be corrected as well as the grants. And the non-operating income. There's a few problems with this budget, but nonetheless, there is for the board members to work over it.
Just starting point, thank you.
And get started on this, and we'll kind of go.
I don't know what you're complaining about, it looks pretty good. You underestimate yourself. Yeah.
Well, I'm not looking for a job.
I tried to be saying that, but it didn't work.
Okay, that covers number 6 and number 7. 8, Mr. Biddle has some comments to make, and forward him.
Just wanted to answer some of the questions earlier that somebody asked me about outside accounting. This is not my meeting, this is his meeting, it was not on his agenda, and I didn't want to go to that conversation. In addition to that, the town's business is not in this meeting, this is the water board meeting. So I was making a comment to share with board members that the town has gone to an outside accounting firm to do some auditing. There has been a lot of speculation, a lot of conversation, a lot of concern about the counting of the district and the town. And it's a very sensitive topic. It's a very sensitive nature. It tends to get out of the street and gets blown out of proportion and turns out to be something that it's not. The town recognizes that. I speak for the balance of the town council members when I say that we don't just hear your concerns, we share those concerns as well. So we're taking some action to review and rectify that. It's fairly complex, it's fairly deep, and any information that we release at this point isn't accurate. When we talk about the budgets here, we talked about $25,000 in outstanding receivables. That hasn't been verified yet. We don't know that there's $25,000 out there. That accounting hasn't been completed yet. So when we talk about those things in the general public, a lot of what we talk about is we're brainstorming, trying to work our way through this, get a clear picture of this. And all too many times, people in the audience will take one portion of that conversation and they'll marry themselves to it. You'll tell 5 more people, and all of a sudden, the town thinks that Dale's short $25,000, not so sure that he is. So until we get to the bottom of it and find out exactly what's going on from a third party, there's been one of the primary comments that Mr. Harris brought to the attention of both Harold and myself as the chairman of the board and as the mayor was that Mrs. Lisenby has been doing accounting even after the mayor has resigned. And what most people don't know, including myself until this past week, was that she was in fact appointed by the town council to fill this.
Not true.
Just hang on. See, this is why I did not want to comment, okay?
You shouldn't have, because you're lying.
I'm not lying anything, okay?
Yeah.
I'm telling you what I discovered this past week, okay? If you could just bear with me, that Mrs. Lisenby was appointed by the town council about 18 to 20 months ago to assist in the accounting and service of liaison in the office. Now, whether it's right, wrong, good, or indifferent, I didn't make that decision. It's not my choice to make the decision. But I know that as a mayor, I can't take any action against it as a mayor. I don't have the authority to do that. It requires town council to correct that if that turns out to be the case. But guys, these things are extremely sensitive. We have too much rumor, too much gossip, too much of our own people working. Even in our town council, we have a division of one individual versus other individual with different messages. We don't know. We don't know the accuracy of the information that's being put out there. And until we do, we're going to do an independent outside audit and determine what's truthful, not truthful, and then it'll be released to the public. And as it should be completely transparent. It is, Richard, represented to me by those of authority that have documented evidence that she has been appointed. Now, that may be a challenge for some of you guys. It may not be. I'm not going to say I don't care, because that's not the right attitude to take. My point is that whatever happened in the past has happened. It's my job to rectify what's wrong today. And that's part of my process. And that's what I'm working on. And I assure you that the minute that we find out what our situation is, and that those reports will be made public.
Well, then maybe you should keep her out of the office and off the computer until it's verified one way.
That's not your call to make. That's the town council's call. Okay? The town council already made that decision, Richard. So as I'm
I think every damn meeting there was, and I never saw it happen myself. So unless it was a special session, it didn't happen.
Richard, I attempted to make explanations to the public. This is why I was reluctant to make a comment earlier, because this is not my agenda. This is not the town council's agenda. This is the water board's agenda. I just wanted to offer what information I could while I could. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. On that same line, I know that there are a lot of people here that would like to make some comments. We normally, as a water meeting, do not entertain comments. It's strictly an informational thing. People can attend. In the past, there have been a few people here that have raised their hands, and we've listened to their comments and tried to address them as best we could. I'll make an exception this evening in that there's many attending and certainly supporting the service district, but we want to make this short and to the point. If you've got a question, ask the question. We'll try to get an answer. We don't want to travelogue of past history, and so we'll entertain it as best we can, but we want to make it short. So, Rich?
I'll try to make it real short. I'm gonna give you a couple things that concern me. This don't have to do with Apple Valley, but the federal government is gonna take over Lake Mead next year. It's dropped below the 1,076 feet. Las Vegas does a great difference between here and there. They have a sewer system. They have banked 2,100,000 gallons of water. They got banked for 10 years. We don't have a sewer system. All our water that we have here goes into septic tanks, pumped out and gone. That's a disadvantage. There's nothing we can do about that. When the letters came out, the deal was with the letters that I talked to Dale about is, and he can't do anything about it, and Apple Valley can't do anything about it. All these alfalfa farms that cut their alfalfa that takes a lot of water, and they got their own wells. And if you notice in this alfalfa field here, they let the sprinklers run till you had a lake out there. It's hard for the residents to be penalized, or however you want to work it, a tier system, when you see so much waste going around as you drive. And we can't stop them from using all the water they want. That's the second thing that is in my gut. Maybe what we should do to people, I don't know how much water I use. Per month I do. Maybe if these people were notified for 1 year of their water, exactly if they use 1 acre feet. If you send them a notice and say, hey, you use 3 acre feet, or you use whatever during the year, that might make a difference to me. And also standby fees. I have a lot with standby fees. Now we're paying close to $50 a month, a lot with standby fees. those people that do have standby people. Personally, nothing's ever gonna be built on that lot. It's just to protect my view, which you shouldn't be allowed unless you buy the lot. But I don't believe those rates should be raised on standby fees that do not use any water. I don't mind paying extra for wash. I can afford it, I will pay it, but I don't know how much water I use per year. I believe last month it was 5,000 gallons of water, what I use. I have 60 trees. I have a drip system with 12 valves. I monitor as much water with one horse. So if we know what I'm using per year, maybe I will say, hey, I didn't realize they used that much. I see it monthly. Monthly does not matter to me. At the end of the year, it does.
Okay, thanks, Rich.
There was a margin and this other one had their hands up first.
Okay, Mark.
Mine's not a question, mine's just a suggestion. I came from Las Vegas, who has been doing water conservation for over 20 years. And they have a problem, you know, like making everybody certain parts of the areas be on certain days. And if you're caught watering on the day that you didn't have your letter, you know, like they did A, B, C, D, let's say if you were in E, and it was an A day, you were getting fined. If you had water running down the road, they gave you one warning, and then you were fine. They didn't play the nice bit about, oh, well, let's be nice and not manage people. You know, bottom line is they have a water problem. If we're having a water problem, then maybe that's what you guys need to toughen up a little bit and do that. And maybe over in Cedar Point, maybe to, you know, bring your wells up running a little more. Maybe you should limit them to, you know, one couple streets can water on Monday and Tuesday. That's all, you know, the next streets water on,
Yeah, we'll try to come up with something.
and also, maybe you guys, I don't know who you would contact at the Las Vegas Water District, but you know, maybe you could contact them and get some suggestions on what to do.
Utah has a great website on all of that stuff. I'd like to comment on two things and then we'll go to Rich. One is that, Lake Powell, they're reflective of the drought in general. If we get into the ag water, we're getting into a real big swamp. They own the water rights, they own the land, law reads that they're entitled to use their private property. And so we're infringing on somebody's private property, right?
But I will say from the town perspective, we are working with those landowners, trying to put some programs together over the next 10 to 12 years where we can transfer that water into the town. Those are things that we are working on.
And that water was converted from ag water to culinary water.
The farm water, man, I'm talking about.
So anyway, yeah, we're merging, we're thinking about all these things and they're in the mix, so appreciate your thoughts.
I don't know where James Bladen, I had a man further.
I have two questions. I live in Cedar Point. First of all, why are we building and building out if we don't have a water system to support it? Why were we even doing this? We just keep giving permits and saying it's okay, go ahead and build. We don't have water. My second question is, why aren't we like getting on top of people who are stealing water? Because I know of a couple people that I see them with their truck.
I would like those people, because what I'm at with that is I am suspicious of several people that are stealing water out of my system, but I can't catch them. But legally, I have to catch them doing that for me to be able to do anything. So if you do see it, I don't even care if you just suspect it. I want a phone call because I am missing water in my system and I can't nail it down. So if you are seeing that,
And we use a drip system and we don't, when we keep up on our water system overall.
What was your first name? Sorry.
Peggy,
I mean,
And your full name, please.
oh, Peggy.
good.
But we've lived here before Cedar Point, even love really built out. And now it's like, okay, well, are we thinking about us conserving the water? But they just keep building.
I do want to answer your first question though. When we acquired and bought the water system, we bought an obligation right to service those individuals. So we cannot at this stage, this is what Dale was trying to explain earlier, there's about 18 roughly of those lots left that we are obligated to provide service for out of this current system that we cannot say no to. Now, there are however 30-ish additional lots out there that still need to be built on that we are holding off giving builders or
Yeah,
giving
yeah,
builder
there's between
blades on.
25 and 30 of them that Jerry has built on all of those except for 7. So there's only 7 of
Seven
those
left. And then the other developed lots outside of that is numbered, how many, that are not part of it, fall into that system?
Yeah, about
30-ish, about
Yeah.
30-ish. And we have ceased will serve letters and.
We have water running down our
That's,
a lot of times too.
and
And
that's,
I
and
don't know where it's coming from, but I see it running out our curb.
I,
Where is this coming from?
if you could help Dale, because I promise you Dale is spread as thin as you, is thinner than what he is. And, he, managing that is extremely difficult. So anything that the community can do to help reach out to Dale and
yes,
you
please.
see those things, reach out to council, reach out to the board, reach out to the town. We'll send somebody over, we'll run over and find out where the water's coming from. And the more eyes we have, the better it is. So thanks.
My question's for Dale. We need a pressure test on Mount Zion Drive. A lot of the homes have absolutely no pressure to their showers. And we're also getting very smelly sewer-like water from showers and outside faucets.
So I just did a pressure test over there Thursday of last week. You guys have 60 pounds over there. There's 63 pounds at the hydrant that's at the bottom of John Pay's Road before it goes up over the top. So if you are having pressure problems inside your house, in fact, I was with a customer today, his little screen inside of his pressure regulator was plugged. And especially with you folks with the second story, my guess would be is your pressure is probably worse upstairs than it is downstairs.
No, we got pressure.
What is your pressure like in your yard compared to your house? That's a big indicator for me that you have
Our
something
pressure is
like
really good.
outside.
Yeah, but
So you have something plugged inside your folks' home that's actually causing that. The dirty water, I will come and address. I see diligent and flushing stuff where you folks are on the loop. You really shouldn't be having that. So I would like to come to your house and actually see what you folks got and troubleshoot where it's actually coming from. Because most of the time that I'm finding with these complaints, it's either a trap in someone's house or they have an unknown broken line that they've got in their yard and it's actually feeding little fine pieces of gravel or sand actually into their system. Because I have a very fine screen on my meters. There's basically almost nothing that's gonna get through there, but I would like to go over and see you and Norm. That's the way I like to deal with these things. I come over to people's house and see what they have actually going on and I'll get it rectified for you.
and I know who's doing what it's called.
Thank you.
Bob Robertson, 1678 Cartland. I just had a question. You mentioned earlier about that pipeline coming in Canaan, and you said we won't probably outrun summer heat or whatever. What's the estimated time of completion on that?
October, November,
October, November?
what do you think, Dale?
I've been telling people that I probably wouldn't be issuing will serve letters for Cedar Point until towards the middle and next year. If it happens before then, that would be nice, but that's the buffer I've given the SSD is that we're looking at least a year. If it happens sooner, that'd be fantastic. But that's what I've been telling folks. We'll be heroes if we get it in quicker. We'll be turds if it takes longer.
You are what you are, right?
It's the age-old excuse that anybody that's dealt with multiple federal agencies, it's a difficult, long task, and that's where we're at. We have the water, we have the land, we have the easements pretty well tied up. we've got all the ends together, we're just waiting for the phone call, so things on our end seem to be really fine.
Well, I think the prime example is, and I'll let Harold explain this, but we just missed the Canaan pipeline development by probably a week because of the new endangered species. That hasn't been identified to us, but it's a flyway, isn't it?
Evidently, the pipeline that we brought out of the mountains off of the springs goes down to an area where there's an endangered species that uses that for a flyway that they just realized comes right over the top of the pipe. And we were gonna have to shut down for 30 days while this bird migrated. Well, just by sheer luck, we were that far from the edge of the wilderness, so they said, well, I suppose that's all right. You can go ahead and continue on, but if we'd been 100 yards up the canyon, they would have said, turn the keys off and go home. And that's a bit of an extreme example, but it's the fact the way it goes. Rich?
Yeah, Rich Cobb, 2222 Strange Road. One, I hear that Canaan is putting out 110 gallons per minute. Right on the street, it's putting out 300 somehow, some miraculous way. The grant was based on 110 gallons a minute, but I don't know, it sounds like 300 gallons per minute is luring investors, builders, development into this section. Now, where are the rooms coming from? Is 110 gallons per minute fact? That's what the well is putting, the Canaan Springs putting out. Where is 300 gallons a minute coming from? Two, you hear all this talk. The towns are going to squash the SSD and take over the SSD, use that as ransom pretty much to fund a $3 to $10 million loan or something. Right now, we think that the Canaan Spring, the infrastructure is being replaced by the grants. Now you hear word on the street is, oh no, we're gonna take a loan out, we're gonna leverage the SSD, it's gonna get squashed, and we're gonna get a loan, which is going to one, pipe into the 1 million gallon tank to just basically take care of Cedar Point. 80 gallons per minute right now is what you're getting out of the two 59 and the Cookville, right? No, I think it's 80, but whatever. If you get 110 out of Canaan Spring, Kendra Webb owns part of that that infrastructure too. She owns part of that water. So literally, what are we getting out of it? Maybe 90 to 100, right? So how are you selling that Canaan Spring is going to do all of Apple Valley at one time? We're hearing that it's going to be a $3 to $10 million loan. We're going to put a pipe in, infrastructure all the way down into Apple Valley proper, and that the citizens are going to be on hope for this. First of all, I don't think the citizens want to pay for a future development. Two, on top of that, there's another thing that's a word on the street. The citizens are going to be on hook for a pipeline. This is included in that loan that we will be on the hook for to go into down to Hilldale into the Hilldale Swamp, and that's going to give us our so-called sewer system. So what is fact here and what is fiction? That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Well, there's the initial point of that. Canaan Springs is producing as close as we can measure it, 110 gallons a minute. 17% of that is owned by Kensko LLC, which is 17%, which is Kendra Webb and members of her family. That 17% will go across the highway, a good share of it, to some lots that she's had developed for some time, but there's a lot of work that has to be done over there before she could use that water. But the rest of it will go to the 1 million gallon tank. If you put a pencil to say round it up to 100 gallons a minute, and you run it 24/7, you come up with an awful lot of water. I think, that's about the long and the short of our immediate plans and funding for now. Is to get the money to the million-gallon tank, provide spring water to Cedar Point. I think they'll have the best water on the planet out there within a few months.
So you have to be a grant.
And that's 100% grant through USDA. All of the money we have spent so far in refurbishing the springs, putting the pipeline out of the canyon, all of that, that's been 100% USDA grant. All of we haven't borrowed a nickel for any of this. And so,
We did have about 35 or 40,000 incidental for part of the grant.
yeah, there will be,
This tank that we're referring to, by the way, that was.
Oh, we service that.
Right, the one that was doing the 70 and get it done, right, wasn't it for us?
Yeah.
7,500.
7,500, yeah.
so anyway, the long and short of it is that the only thing that I can address as far as fact is that the grants are in the works. I have no reason to believe they won't come through. The contractors have worked very well with us in the past, and there'll be perhaps different people working on this, with the additional part of the pipeline. I don't want to complicate it, but I'll lay the facts out, and there's additional questions, we can address them maybe tonight or future. There's 7 springs on the side of that mountain coming out of the cliffs. We have access to 2. They were developed years and years and years ago. So when they needed to be refurbished, we were allowed by the USDA to go through the wilderness, up into the springs, refurbish them, bring the equipment out, and we still have to do some reclaiming of the area that we were in. The other 5 springs we have to go through the wilderness to get to them. Now, that is anybody's guess, if that is even possible. And if it's possible, how long would it take? We have water rights in those springs, but we have to access them. In the past, some of the property owners have taken 1-inch poly pipe and put into those springs and ran them down the hill and put them in ponds for their cattle, which 50 years ago, 100 years ago, who cared? I mean, everything was fine. But the USDA doesn't consider that a developed spring. So all of that's probably going to go, and I don't know if even the landowners below there will be able to access it. Once you're dealing with the wilderness, the BLM and the USDA, you've got a monster to deal with. So I can say that we made it through 2 springs. They're producing for us now. Excellent water. The earliest water rights on those springs are 1860, if I'm correct. So since 1860, those springs have been producing, according to the people we talked to, at the same rate. So we have an excellent track record on those 2 springs. That's why the government was willing to put that much money into a spring out in the middle of nowhere. That's about all I can say. Is that the other springs are there, we have water rights in them. I don't know if we'll ever be able to access them. You have anything wrong?
Well, that's the extent of knowledge that we as the water district are aware of, right? That's it.
I appreciate it.
And the balance, I think you were directing towards me, Richard, as the mayor. And I can tell you that the previous administration, the previous mayor and the past town council did take action to start the process of dissolving the sewer district, the special service district. When they placed the resolution on the town, what was that, Marty, a year ago? I mean, Marty, that year ago, 18 months ago?
That was,
2 years ago.
January 2019.
January 2019. And, you know, the position of the council, as it's been represented to me, and understand that this was the information that I received, so don't hold me to what happened, because I wasn't here. But I was here when Rick Mosher was the mayor, and I was planning commission chairman when he talked about forming the service, the SSD, which occurred after I left. But SSDs are typically designed to be temporary in nature because they are sometimes they'll design to be temporary in
Now you
nature
just
for a
said
town.
sometimes. First you said they are, and then you said sometimes.
Let me clarify, because I'm not a perfect human being, Richard, and
No, it's
I'm
okay.
trying to explain this. So the intent, as it was explained to me back then, was that it would be temporary in nature because of the circumstance of an SSD and how it can qualify for funding. At this particular time, the town has made a decision before I came here in the fall. They had already made a decision, because when I came here, I was brought up to speed on that. And the intention is for the town to dissolve or absorb the district into the town as a water company at the end of the day. That decision has already been made. What our attempt and what Harold and I's attempt is, when I was the pro tem mayor, prior to being the mayor, back around the holidays, I went to town council and I went to the mayor and asked them if they would back off of that and give me time to go spend some time with Harold, and see if we couldn't find some way to jointly make that happen and let those two come together. Even if it took a period of time to do so, whether it was a short period of time or a long period of time. But the town is in a position where it can absorb additional grant monies that the district cannot. In addition to that, the district, the DDW and the USDA have made concessions and offers to the town to consolidate and reduce the interest rates on the loans by 50% range. And I say range because I don't know the exact decimal point, but there are currently 5 loans that the district is servicing. One of them will be serviced and paid off by the end of the year. One is at 0% interest and one is at 1% interest. But the balance of 2, which holds the majority of the debt, are up in the 3.5% range. And I don't know the exact number. This is just the numbers that have been represented to me. But the DDW and the USDA, combined with some CPI money, there is potential there to reduce those interest rates and the balance of those 2 loans by themselves down in the 1.7, 1.85 range. We don't know that yet. We're working to identify what that looks like. I told Harold, and Harold can attest to this back in the fall, that I don't know if today's the day. I don't know if this is the year to have those 2 entities merge back together the way they were prior to whenever it was that they separated. I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that because we're still investigating that, trying to get to the bottom of the county of that, see where we're at and see if it makes logical sense. Right now, it makes financial sense to do it because of the urgency we have for a shortage of water, not just in Canyon Springs, but we also need to connect the 3 systems together. So I think part of what you're hearing, and I'm fully aware that Councilman Sarah has shared a lot of this information with you, that part of what you're hearing is accurate. There is the investigation of looking at the transportation of water and infrastructure in this town does include a pipeline down Main Street, because in the past, the town as a whole body has concluded on the general amendment plan that will be a future commercial area. So until you get that infrastructure in there, you won't be able to go forward with any of that commercial development. Now, whether the general amendment plan stays that way, because we are reviewing that as well. Sunrise Engineering was hired about 3 weeks ago to canvass the community, not the council, but the community, to reach out to the community and readjust the general amendment plan to more of what the community had in view, as opposed to a planning commission chairman or a town council member, whoever it was that came up with that, which I have no idea, not that you do either. But I said earlier that it's not my job to be so much concerned about what has occurred in the past, but my job is to find out where we are today, ascertain what our status and our position is, reach out to the community through this canvassing program, identify where we want to go in the next 10, 15 years, and then put the plans together to get us there. Part of that is the development of more, it's not just water development, it's also consistent water development across the entire community. Remember that one of our primary jobs is to offer consistent service to all residents of the community. And in order to do that, the engineers will tell you all day long that the best way to do that is connect those 3 systems and create a storage system of 3 million gallons of water. Now, I am a developer at heart. By trade, I develop golf courses. I don't develop residential as much. I try to stay out of that. But I can tell you that where I'm at, 3 million gallons will service 10,000 homes. So my first response, knee-jerk response is why do we need 3 million gallons of storage? This committee will never reach anything anywhere near that. And then you go look at the general amendment plan, you say, what does the general amendment plan show? It doesn't show anything near that. So my first question is then why do we need 3 million gallons of storage? So these are the questions that I am working, trying to figure out so that I can identify what I find out. And then on May 15th, we're having a barbecue over here, where I hope to have all of that data pulled together to be able to present to the town and say, this is what I have found out. Now the Sunrise Engineering group that we have hired is going to canvass the community, determine what they want to do with this. Because while I'm a mayor, I'm not an elected mayor, I'm an appointed mayor. That means while I have a responsibility to town, I first answer to town council members. And the town council members have put most of this stuff in motion already. It's been, in my personal view, and it's nothing derogatory to any previous individual or any current council member, it has nothing to do with other than just, in my mind, poor planning. There just hasn't been any long-range planning done. I know that the general amendment plan we have done has been done by members of the community. I know that as planning commission chairman, I contribute a lot to the I'm sorry? I contribute a lot to the past ordinances, and I can tell you that I, as much development experience as I have, am not qualified to go through that system. So I've gone to outside parties to bring a more professional view in to try and ascertain that, rather than rely upon our council or our staff, or even some of the community members that have a ton of talent. But it's really not our forte. And to get a really good, clear picture, we really need to reach out to more people like Sunrise to help us identify and put that together, than rely on our own talent skills. So there is room for that. I've heard the same rumors. There are no loans being sought after. I've heard a $10 million loan. I've heard an $8 million loan. If whatever pipelines and whatever development we do, our goal is to do 100% of that with grant money everywhere possible. When it cannot be, it will be presented to the public. The public will fully have a review what we do before we do it. I don't know any better way to do it than that, Richard, and that's what we're working on. Thank you. I think I answered all your questions, right? Did I skip one?
I'm not happy with them, but no, it's okay.
Kevin, you had your hand up.
I'll make it quick.
Okay,
maybe I won't. I'll try. First of all, I don't like it when someone says they're speaking on my behalf. When you talk about the town council, I can speak for myself, and you know. Just so we all know, I've known Mr. Bell for a long time. I love him like a brother. He's been a good friend. He's helped my family out numerous times. He's done work for me. So with that, I have complete respect for him. Love him for all that he's done. He has a great heart, huge heart. But there's also the side of Mr. Vettel that likes to throw up smoke screens and get his points across because he has his own agenda that he's taking care of. So let me just squelch the rumors, because I'm the other council person that he's talking about. I'm the guy out here beating the streets, rallying the citizens to stand up for their rights. I am but your humble servant for this water board and for the citizens. When this kind of thing comes to my personal community, I take it personally. And by God, I'm gonna keep this community together. If it's left thing to do, even though I got blood on my hands to do so. So with that said, I've been here from the very beginning. I've been for like 18 years. I was here when the water board was put together. I was here when the SSD. I was here when they put all the piping in. I was here for all the grants, the loans, the build out front. I've been for all that. I worked in every department in this community as either a volunteer or as a paid employee. Even I worked for the town. I volunteered in the fire department. I've been at numerous meetings until you could just like pick meetings out the side of my head. I can tell you this: there's been a hostile takeover of the SSD for a long time. I'm going to speak the truth here. You can go home and pray about it and come up with your own decisions. From the past administration to the current, they do have major plans
And they all have personal agendas they're trying to accomplish, and I tell you, it's not for us citizens, it's for the growth of this community, and it's to bring in a lot of contractors and do some massive build outs. I don't believe we have the water here to do that. I know that right now, out in, one of the other communities, that they had 100% amount of water on their paper by the time they got the grant and did the actual studies. They only had 20% of the water they thought they had. Now, I don't know how much water is in the ground. I have no idea. But I know that we need to find out before we go a step further with anything. I know that we have zero transparencies. I don't know what's happening to those books. All I know is there's people in here all the time doing stuff that shouldn't be in the town anymore.
Kevin?
Want it down? Okay, anyway, I just want you to know one thing. There's lots of things that are coming out in this room tonight. We're gonna get to the truth one way or the other. And it starts with the accounting, so that we know where we're at. The SSD has been slam dunked for a long time. They're not the enemy. They're here to serve the people, and so am I. And we will get to the truth one way or the other.
Amen.
Debbie?
I just have a quick question. I used to be the automatic envelope stuffer and paper folder. Why are our water bills going in Hilldale now? Because they have an automatic machine.
They're not. We're holding them.
Oh, now we are?
Yeah, we've been holding them the last 2 months here in the office.
That's number 2 for you.
I know, I shoot it down. I have one comment. Not of you guys don't know them, but there is this older couple, Eve and Charlie Greco. And Eve, Charlie Greco, and myself attended, when they made this water district, we attended every meeting. There was only 3 of us in the audience, and we attended every meeting. And I don't believe once that I ever hear that the SSD was gonna be a temporary fixture in this town. So, unless it was hidden or something, but I never heard it, and like I said, I'm gonna call them to see what they think too, because it never was presented to the citizens of this town that this SSD was going to be a temporary fixture. That's it.
Amen.
Let me correct my statement, maybe you didn't understand me. I said that I wasn't here part of that. I took what was reported to me.
I know, but I'm just saying that it was never presented to the citizens of Apple Valley when it was formed. And I attended every meeting for years, Eve, Charlie, and I, and it never, ever came up that it was gonna be a temporary, district.
You should get your reporting from multiple, sources instead of one.
Richard,
Okay, please.
Richard,
Do some research.
hang on, this was an attack on me. I didn't make this decision, okay? I said that it was reported to me by Mr. Mosier, when I was a planning commission chairman, that the goal was to create a temporary special service district. That was what was told to me. That was it. If that has changed after I left, that's changed before I was in other conversations, I'm not privy to it. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can here and tell you this is what was told to me. Okay,
Okay, but then you said you would not give us the auditor source, the name of the auditor, so it's just like question marks just come up, it's like, are you telling the truth or are you not? Why would you not be transparent and tell us who the auditor company was, so it's like, you throw the questions in our head.
Because I'm under disclosure not to, Richard.
Why?
Well, we're the citizens, you're supposed to be working for us.
I also have a legal obligation not to break the law, okay? You know what a non-disclosure, everybody knows what a non-disclosure agreement is. I'm under a non-disclosure agreement, okay?
Can we see it?
No, you can't.
Who's paying?
Yeah, it is. I am paying the bill.
You're paying?
I paid the bill for this individual. You're the one seeing it.
Then I got a right to know.
If you see a bill come up on with the town, then you're permitted to see that. But what I do with my personal finances is you're not entitled to see.
We'll see about that.
You're welcome to see about that.
Okay, let's, Nan, you're the final, you're the jury, okay?
I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but an SSD to be dissolved requires 10% of the voters in the town. It requires that. That's what's in the chapter for an SSD. and it has to be done by the town council. So, it wasn't formed to be a temporary thing, it was formed to be a permanent oversight of our water in our town, and they've done a great job.
Yes.
And if they can't see their own books, and you have a key, and that,
I don't have a key.
you just said you could come in and full
No, I
transparency
said,
anytime.
I said he could, I can't, I'm not the town treasurer, I'm not the board's treasurer. He is the treasurer for this board, and he can go in and see anytime, I cannot.
You said anybody can come in and look at it,
And then I clarified that he can. He can, as a treasurer, can come in and see it.
but you can't.
You can file a grant request and get it, but he has the ability to go in every day, any day he wants to, and review that.
The people of this town need to vote either for or against the dissolving of the SSD.
I'm not disagreeing with you, ma'am, I'm telling you, I just
I'm
reported,
just telling you the rules.
I just reported you what happened a year ago before. I came in, okay? I'm reporting you that the resolution was placed upon this water district about a year ago, Rossi knew the date. I don't know what it is. And if it takes a vote to do it, then that's what the town, if the town, the board decide, this board and the town council decide that's the direction they want to go, then they'll go do that under those laws and regulations. It hasn't been determined. I'm sorry?
I don't think you read them.
I have not. I absolutely have not, ma'am. There's no challenge about that. Right now, we're trying to determine what's the best thing to provide equal water across the town. And right now, the previous administration determined a course of action.
That's the SSD's job. That's what they're doing.
Now, I'm reporting, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to report to you what has taken place, where it is. I walked in here and said, okay, let's ascertain what has happened, where we are, and then we'll figure out how to go forward. That's my plan. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry,
sorry.
can I get your name for the record?
Annette Fallon.
Yes, ma'am.
Peggy? One question, I don't go to all the meetings, so, but I was at the meeting where Marty was taking over the book for the SSD. I'm to be at that meeting, so why can't you access that? I don't understand what the issue is.
They took the computer, the book.
Okay, but Marty's here, why can't you get it?
Well,
It's the towns, it's not Marty's, it's
No,
the
it's-
towns.
No, I think you're misunderstanding. They now have possession of that computer. What
Why
he's
can't
talking,
you access it?
what he's talking about is he doesn't have access to the data from a remote station. He can come into the office here and access it all he wants. We've hired an accounts payable guy and assigned him to Mr. Merritt, so that Mr. Merritt could also have direct access to that through Rossi as the treasurer. So I think we've taken big strides to correct that.
I don't understand. Why, Marty can come in and just say.
Make one comment.
Marty can't do that, man, but Marty did not do that, the council did.
But Tish has been privy to the votes, because she had the numbers to tell Dale that he was, that there were outstanding funds.
Assuming they were accurate, that is correct, because she was appointed by town
Hey,
council.
folks, Russ has a comment to make.
I'm just on a closing comment. I haven't been involved in this, a couple of years since I've been on the board. Maybe 3, I don't know. But we were given we have to have mandatory training from the state. Okay, and so the state sits down, mostly it's this guy named Grant Bitters, and comes and trains us as the board required. And every time at our meeting, he would say, the SSD, this SSD is not set up properly. Number one, the SSD format is put in place to remove the politics out of the water. And he looked at like he said with the mayor shouldn't be on this board. And I understand the reason he went on there because nobody else would take or whatever, but that was one of the things. And the other thing is that as far as this is right now, and I think the law may be changing, but the SSD is the one that can hold and trade water shares and things like that. So that may be changing, but Anyway, that's what we were trained every year, and also that we should have our own separate books. And so we passed a resolution in September, October of 2018 as the board to separate the billing, and that's when the first started flying. And that's when the books got taken and the computer got taken and we got kicked out of the office. That's when this all started. And since then, we have not had access to our information, other than the reports that were being brought to us at our monthly meetings, that we're just taking their numbers. That's the truth, okay? That's the truth.
I have volunteered to be on the water department because of my skills and knowledge. Assistant Gregory Ing, I have to use it for the money.
I refuse it. You came and asked me to be on the board, and I said, we already had somebody else on it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, we did.
You told me straight up, you were gonna put me on the water board, that's why I went to town
I
council.
did not tell you that.
You did. Okay,
I did.
I'm going to make the motion that we adjourn.
I second.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you.